Hi folks. Well, these days we're all pretty used to seeing and understanding information in the form of charts. You know, the kind of things you see, bar charts, line charts, or pie charts, things like that. And with the advent of personal computers, you know, all of a sudden we're able to create them ourselves. Which is pretty cool. So here's a few I did just today quickly. I thought you might be interested to see some aspects of Scotland's population. So let's have a look at the first one. This is looking at the population growth in Scotland over the last 200 years or so. So you see there quite clearly rapid expansion between 1800 and 1900, and then a bit of levelling out until a kind of recent uptick. But what's the age breakdown of our current population? Well, as with many other Western countries, Scotland has an ageing population. The biggest numbers lie in the age bracket 40 to 60, with fewer, unfortunately, in the younger age bands. And where do we all live? Well, I'm afraid we don't all live in the Highlands and Islands, so you have to forget all those sorts of us roaming the glens in our kilts. The overwhelming majority of people in Scotland live in what's called the lowlands and the northeast of the country, with most of us being in what's called the central belt, which stretches across the middle of the country, includes Edinburgh and Glasgow, obviously. So, bar charts, line charts, pie charts are a great way of us understanding information. But what many people don't know is that it was a Scotsman who invented this way of explaining data to people. Now his name was William Playfair, and he was an engineer, a political economist, amongst many other things, and he led what I think was quite an amazing life. So William was born in 1759 in the small village of Benvie, which is just on the outskirts of Dundee, on the east side of the country. His father, the Reverend James Playfair, was the local Church of Scotland minister, and as such William would have been known as a son of the manse. That's a term that's used. Manse is the word for the house of a Church of Scotland minister. He was part of an amazingly gifted Scottish family. His eldest brother John was celebrated throughout the country. He was a Church of Scotland minister, he was a scientist, a mathematician, and also professor of natural philosophy at the University of Edinburgh. And William had another brother, James, who was an architect, and James' son, which is William's nephew, was William Henry Playfair, who is a renowned architect whose superb designs are still admired in Edinburgh's elegant new town. Now remember, William was born during this period of history called the Scottish Enlightenment, when Scotland was at the centre of intellectual thinking that shaped our world today. And William Playfair's family are characteristic of this amazing period when Scotland really led the academic world. And just by the way, if you haven't already watched my 4-part series on the Scottish Enlightenment, then you really must. It is, for me, the most important period in Scotland's long history, yet is relatively forgotten about today. You'll find it on my YouTube channel, Gordon Scotland. Anyway, let's get back to William Playfair, the inventor of bar charts. His father died when William was only 13, and his eldest brother John cared for the family and for William's education. As a young man, he was apprenticed as an engineer to Andrew Meikle, who invented the threshing machine, and then subsequently William worked as a draftsman for James Watt, the famous Scottish inventor of the steam machine. His life then took many turns and twists, with William enjoying a wide range of careers, including being an accountant, an inventor, a silversmith, a merchant, an investment broker, a banker, an economist, and a statistician. Quite amazing. He was also by turn an ardent royalist, a pamphleteer, a journalist and editor, and also managed at one time to be imprisoned for not paying his debts. So in Scotland we would call something like that a lad o' many parts, a man of many parts, you would say, a lad of many parts. Anyway, he also had some really amazing escapades. In 1787, he went to Paris to take part in the storming of the Bastille during the French Revolution 2 years later. Quite amazing. And then by the 1790s, William had become a secret agent of the British government and was informing it on events that were taking place in revolutionary France and proposing clandestine operations which would help bring down this revolutionary government. His most famous scheme came about in 1793 when William devised a plan that he presented to Henry Dundas, a Scotsman who was soon to become Britain's Secretary of State for War. Playfair proposed to fabricate 100 million assignats. So that the assignat was the currency that the French revolutionary government had created, and so he was intending to counterfeit this, and he saw this plan as a way of combating the French revolutionaries without shedding the blood of British men. Playfair forged this huge amount of money at Houghton Castle in Northumberland, and he distributed them throughout France through a really elaborate and ingenious plan. And the plan worked well, and by 1795 the French assignats had become worthless. Ensuing chaos undermined the French government, but the whole operation was kept top secret, and no one was aware of Playfair's involvement for many, many years. Prior to all this, however, Playfair had published in 1786 a book called The Commercial and Political Atlas, in which he wanted to present data, but in an easily read format. Now, William had been inspired by the scientist Joseph Priestley, who had used what he called timelines in a publication to show the lifespan of a person. So this was a line just showing what that person had done. And William decided to adapt this, and his first bar chart was developed to show the level of imports and exports from Scotland to 17 different countries. So this was quite a complex issue to get over, but he did it by this bar chart. Now, in this book, he also used a time series chart to show the trade balance in trade between England and Denmark and how it moved from negative to positive. Again, quite complex issue to get over. This book was described as the first major work to contain statistical graphs. William subsequently published a book called Statistical Breviary in 1801, and this contained what is generally credited as the first pie chart, and it showed the proportions of the Turkish Empire located in Asia, Europe and Africa before 1789. Playfair always argued that charts communicated better than tables of data, and his inventions have now been adopted around the world, and we all see them regularly in newspapers, magazines and books. So what I want you to think about is the next time you're looking at a line chart, a bar chart or a pie chart that's trying to explain something complex to you and you can understand it, think back to William Playfair, that son of the manse from Scotland, who invented it all. There you are, folks. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and that way you won't miss any of my future videos. And until we meet again, I just want to wish you all the very best from Scotland.